Podcast City Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Deathmatch Russell Podcast. Let's get it on!
Come into the ring, step into the fire, see what you want, baby. If your heart has desire, get out, get knocked down. Deathmatch Russell Podcast, Deathmatch Russell Podcast, Deathmatch Russell Podcast.
And I'm getting an echo from my phone. That's never good. Good evening, everyone. And you're listening to another episode of the Deathmatch Russell Podcast. And my guest tonight, the one and only Gerry. How are you?
Good, man. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. It's been a long time since we've actually talked because we used to go to shows together all the time at the old Phoenix Championship Wrestling, I believe. Back in my backyard, like next town over, like from Bricktown,
That's,
homes of wrestling, back then when wrestling was big in the 90s, we just had a lot of wrestling, I believe.
Yeah. Well, that's where I got my start doing a lot of the announcing work that I still do today. Was the Toms River Recreation Station, right? You remember that building?
Yes, it's still around. We have wrestling there. Titan Championship Wrestling wrestles out of there.
Okay. I haven't been in town so long. I didn't know they were still.
Oh my God. Steve Monster Mac is the current one of the champions. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
You might have to swing in there one of these days.
Hey,
it's you're always welcome.
Hey, appreciate it. Yeah.
But actually, I was just going back to some footage of the Hit Squad when 3PW era. There's another era of your career, right?
3PW, yeah, Philly.
Power Pain Wrestling, right? That was the name of it. Propane Pro. What made you get into that? How did you get hooked into that federation? That was like a hole in the wall kind of fed, like it really didn't make it. Yeah.
I mean, it was 3PW, and it's funny how 3PW actually became kind of a thing globally. DVDs available in stores back when they sold DVDs in stores and such. But 3PW,
Blockbuster, Nobody Beats the Wiz, all your Suncoast videos.
Yeah. Yeah, but 3PW, I mean, if you and this is sort of going to be a time machine for people. Right. But 3PW is one of the companies that came out of Philadelphia when the original ECW ceased to exist and tried to fill that gap, fill the void, if you will, because there were so many fans who were still rabid for wrestling in that area. So
yeah, and I saw people like the Hat Guy in the crowd. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, and people who were associated with that original ECW, like the Blue Meanie, like Jasmine St. Clair, Todd Gordon, were all involved in this company, and it was sort of like, let's just keep things going. It was, I think, in many ways, trying to keep the spirit of that ECW vibe alive.
Yeah, but you had some good wrestling also. You had AJ Styles, you had Kid Cash, and Jerry Lynn, and the list goes on and on. If you look back,
and if you think about it, that's something that people kind of gloss over, but that was such a big part of the original ECW, was the fact that beyond all the hardcore stuff, there was also the Dean Malenkos and the Eddie Guerreros and the Jerry Lynn's, RVD. So, in a lot of ways, that was sort of the mission there, especially, like we said, right there in Philly. You also had stuff like CZW bringing ultra-violent wrestling. You had Ring of Honor being born in that area. So everyone was trying their own kind of angle.
And I believe Pro Wrestling Unplugged as well.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. So I was just happy. The way that I got involved in 3PW, I think first and foremost was because of my relatively short period of time working in wrestling. I was working with Phoenix Championship Wrestling and Tom's River,
Yes.
who were working with a very popular and busy video crew at the time, Smart Mark Video, who were brought on to do and handle all video production for 3PW. So they actually reached out to me and invited me to come in and be a part of that broadcast team from almost the beginning, which I was always
Yeah.
very
I think we
psyched
were.
for.
I know we were there every single weekend. We would be at a show. It's like it's crazy. It was crazy. I mean, just and the amount of talent that was on that roster, phenomenal. Like, come on, we saw people who got contracted. You know, people come and go, people who died. You know.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think. I think back to PCW. I think back to 3PW. Each one only lasted about 3 or 4 years, but they felt like big chunks of like really great bodies of work that I still look back on.
The Haas Cup. You know, look at that.
Yeah, the Haas Cup, maybe one of the single coolest tournaments that I've ever been able to call.
Yeah, because it was like just nonstop action. It was just great in your face. We're just like, this is a tournament, and Charlie's brother, memory. And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of memorable moments.
But also to see Eddie Guerrero versus Nova on a farewell match. Like we got to see early Eddie, in his prime.
That was
insane.
that. Yeah. It was not the height of where Eddie would go, but it was that short period of time where Eddie was gone from WWE. He'd already become a WWE star, and then he like it felt like just days later he was walking into Tom's River in this giant main event, and then he was back on TV not long after that. So
I know it was crazy.
Yeah,
but we got lucky to see him, which was like we would never go to a WWE house show and see him, or at a WWE event,
right?
Be there to see him, watch him wrestle in front of us, personally, like close to the ring,
Well, that's it. Yeah, the intimacy of independent wrestling is a unique experience unto itself.
yeah,
for sure.
But man, now you're seeing a whole new era of wrestling. What are you thinking of it? It's like changed. It's still.
I don't think it's ever stopped changing, honestly. I mean, from a kid watching to almost 20 years of being behind a microphone, it seems like it's just constantly evolving.
It is, and more contracts are getting signed as we speak. It's crazy. Like,
it's something to watch. It's something to follow. It's, that's what makes it fun, right? It's never the same.
Do you follow the AEW product? Do you catch that?
Yeah, I mean, I follow everything. And, I mean, I'm lucky enough that now, over the course of a good number of years now, I've been lucky enough to work with a company called Northeast Wrestling, and we have a lot of.
I've seen a lot of that promotional stuff going out. I got to check that out. Get out there sometime. Looks like a pretty fun. They're at Six Flags a lot too, as well.
Every year, yeah, that's one of our biggest events of the year. We do a wrestling day at Six Flags for the last few years, and it's phenomenal. They pack that. There's that stadium on site, and they sell it out. So it's
you're right.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, because they bring in stars from all over as well, which is cool.
Yeah. So long story short, I follow everything that I can. I can't watch everything, but I follow it all.
Yeah. It's like we're like, what's tonight? Dark AEW Dark's going on tonight, I think, or Evolution. Evolution is on tonight. Yeah.
Well,
we never had that when we were younger. We had the WWF Saturday Night Live, Saturday. We had all those programs, that Sunday Night Heat, and if you caught that at that time frame, growing up, what was it like for you? Like watching wrestling?
Same thing. I mean, I went through my phase of wanting to watch everything on TV, and then once I went like once I became a teenager, went to college, I was just reading about it all. I didn't really have time to watch a lot of it, but I was still kind
But
of.
then, but like going to an event or something, that must have been like, wow, yeah, your first experience going to a show, like a WWE house show, like or pay-per-view or some sort of
first WWE show in 1989. I was preteen. And yeah, it was really cool. It was I mean, I remember the Hart Foundation was on the show, Dusty Rhodes. I feel like this must have been like right after WrestleMania 5, if I have to place it.
I was at 5, so as a kid, I was at 5.
Oh, at the Mania. Okay. Yeah, that was my first full WWE show. And then I was lucky enough to grow up in an area where as we moved into the 90s, there was a lot of independent wrestling.
Yes.
In Central Jersey. So
yeah.
Lots of cool things to attend, and then lots of places to work once I started being able to do that.
Yeah, because you just kept on moving, and Tom's River came around, and that was like a home. You're like, okay, I'm home. It's like I could just relax. This building is beautiful. It's just the way that it was set up. You remember? Like
I do. Yeah, the rec center. I mean, that was one of the first places I worked, so I was very lucky in that regard. Good start.
But the ECW arena for 3PW, that's like you're stepping into it like a nostalgia. Now it's like a bar setup. It's like they got bars. It's like crazy now.
Yeah, it's totally different now.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow.
But yeah, I got to work in it for a bunch of years before they did a full renovation. So I got to be there really before it was touched, when it was still dirty and grimy and awesome, and be up on that stage, up on that upper level where commentary used to happen for ECW. That's where I used to be able to sit myself, my broadcast partner Mike Winter at the time, and we got to kind of just feel that same atmosphere, same sort of vibe.
To call a match, to call them matches, you're probably like, this is really neat for me. I'm going to be commentating at a wrestling. Like what made you want to be like get into that field at the time?
I mean, I was already into broadcasting. I was already into radio. So I really like that aspect of things. And then I've been a wrestling fan for so many years. And it truly is like my favorite part of a pro wrestling product is that role, is the storytelling aspect of it. Like even, as a fan, that's really what I enjoy. I'd rather watch something on TV and kind of hear how these things are talked about and told, better than being there live. Like I'd rather kind of have that full experience and be a part of that experience. So
and have the monitor right there, and right in front of the TV, in front of you, and you're looking right at the ring as well. It kind of, you're glancing over. You're like, okay, I'm going to catch the moment that I want to see, and call the match that like that. What was your favorite moment calling a match? Like, oh boy. Gosh, there's probably so many.
I mean, it literally has been over 20 years now, which is frightening. But
let's say at PCW at Phoenix Wrestling.
Okay, that's makes it a little easier. I love that whole Haas Cup. For those, you mentioned it before. For those who maybe don't remember what we're talking about, that was a really unique one-night tournament set up to memorialize Russ Haas, Charlie Haas's brother, who had unfortunately passed away way too young. And it was one night, the entire wrestling community, like an all-star event, really unique format for a tag team tournament, lots of surprises, and just sort of that feel-good moment. So that whole night was really cool. I remember when Diamond Dallas Page, we did a homecoming event for him in Point Pleasant.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And that was, at the time, that was a really big deal because he wasn't really at the point of making appearances like that. This was like a really unique
that's
thing.
way before him doing all his yoga stuff and
right. So that was cool. Of course, Eddie and Guerrero and Novo was a big one. I mean, there was a lot. I always look back
calling the Ballard brothers, like
the Ballard brothers. I look back and I try to remember the goofy stuff too, which is some of my favorite. I remember the
Slayer moments, Slayer moments, Ozzy.
I remember Jumbo Joe Guns versus the Prophet, where the loser is going to get pelted with produce.
I remember that. Yes, that was a crazy fun night. I had to go back.
Yeah.
I remember watching that. I bought the VHS when it came out after. I got so excited.
Yeah. It was so much fun. You just fans lined up with like nasty rotten lettuce and tomatoes and just ready to throw it at the Prophet. And I'm like, this is wrestling. This is the purest form. Like I don't need
where
a
are we
4 or
gonna
5
get,
star match.
we're not. Where are you gonna get this? Not on television.
Exactly.
We had the local channel to watch it replay. Channel 20. That was great. Comcast provided it.
Yeah, the local yeah, that's right. Firebird TV. That's what the local television they did.
It was pretty. But then people came out and saw the shows, and it was great. Just kept on going and going. And I wish I was at the earlier stuff up in northern Jersey, or wherever they were. They were up North Jersey somewhere, for the very beginning.
Yeah, they were kind of doing both back and forth, and but I mean, wrestling was it's always been, ever since that time, it's been hot, just in different ways to different audiences and sort of coming and going. But there's never been a time where it hasn't been fun to be a part of it. So
yeah. And as the local fan, I'd yell at, you'd probably see me yell at all the wrestlers all the time. I used to sit there front row with my big fat friend, Big John. God rest his soul. He died.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
COVID, yeah. But he used to go to a lot, he used to be there all the time. But then my other big guy, there was like a guy looked like the Big Show, like really tall dude. I don't know whatever happened to him. One of my coworkers. We used to bring all my coworkers. Used to come from public work, my brick public works, So it was always fun to bring people in because they love wrestling. And it's like, we'd always talk about it every day at work. Where are we going? We're gonna go see some wrestling at the Tom's River again.
Nice.
And then we'd go to that crappy Carney shit, crappy NWS and all these other little shit promotions they ran.
Oh, I spent years working for them too, actually.
Did you?
I've worked for just about I've worked for many.
So you probably see me at those shows too. Yeah.
I was a ring announcer there for several years.
Yes.
Which was honestly a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it
was. Yeah. Yeah, that promoter was a joke though. But whatever.
Different.
He was different. He'd always call me on the phone. Are you coming tonight? Are you coming tonight? Are you coming to the next show? Oh my God. Like, don't threaten me, dude. You know what I mean? I'll go where I want to be placed,
They were old school salesmanship.
I know. Because he was running it out of his basement, his little office thing. But we had a lot of good talent. Don't get me wrong. We had a lot of guys who were, local kids, and then just superstars they brought in, like Finley to, Carlito to just everybody, Yeah,
a lot of guys passed through there too. A lot passed away too, So. Well, yeah, over the course of time. Yes, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Scott Hall, we've had Scott Hall also, I was looking back when Monster Mac was there. Forgot about that. I took a drive up there. I took a road trip to that one to see him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Shout out to let's hope he pulls through. That's scary. I know.
Yeah, it's I've
been reading all day. It's crazy. It's just let's hope he pulls through.
A lot of people are thinking about him today for sure.
I know.
Positive
I know.
thoughts.
Positive thoughts, and I'll never forget. I got to see him actually throw a light tube at a wrestler at Game Changer Wrestling down in Howell, New Jersey. Very long time, not a
Oh,
long
wow.
time ago, but when we had Game Changer's first show there, yeah, with Zandig. It was popular.
Oh, wow.
He was the owner. That was actually the night after Joey got thrown off that roof. Yes, versus Zandig.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked for Zandig as well. I worked for CZW for about a year. So I
Did
remember I did.
Oh man. Yeah, I went to CZW for quite a while. Not
Yeah.
the early run, but a lot of good runs,
That was a frightening place for me, but that was
Yeah.
for me.
Mhm.
I'm not like I don't have any bad opinions about any
Mm-mm.
aspect of the wrestling business, but for me, coming from NWS type wrestling and PCW type wrestling, and
To like a
you know,
barbed wire wrestling to a yeah.
right, like my second show for them, I believe, was the Tournament of Death in
Mhm.
Delaware, which I had
Yeah.
never even seen before, let
Mhm.
alone attended.
Yeah.
And
You were scared. You're like, oh, what
I
if
was
this like
I
yeah.
was terrified. I was terrified.
Yeah.
I remember glass like flying right at
Mhm.
my face, and my broadcast partner like catching it out of the air, like to stop it from hitting me right in the forehead.
Yeah.
It was a dangerous environment to me, but
But
I'm kind of
now,
a wuss, so
but now they use a lot of doors in wrestling, which is I could see that's more easier to go through. The
I would,
doors are
yeah,
those are a lot
yeah,
better than the wooden tables. Don't give anymore. Some of those tables don't give. It's insane.
right, yeah,
But they still use ladders. Ladders will always be ladders.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the heights of these ladders that they use now, it's crazy, and like all the ways that they come up to manipulate themselves. Oh shit. Uh-oh. Fans, stay tuned. I think he left the room. I guess I talked too much about deathmatch wrestling. Stay tuned, fans. Gerry will be right back. Oh no. Oh, his Wi-Fi just shut down. Uh, Fans, technical difficulties when you're on a podcast, but that's gonna be always the be. Maybe we could get him back on the podcast another day. He's always around, so it's okay to catch up with him. I feel like Well, fans, I think I'm going to call it a night here because my guest had some issues with his computer and Wi-Fi. I want to thank my guest tonight, ring announcer Gerry, for coming on. And fans, stay tuned tomorrow night on the Deathmatch Russell podcast, as I'll be talking to a man, the corn. Oh man, I'm out of her tonight. Take 2 from the Deathmatch Russell podcast. Here we are, folks, back with the Deathmatch Russell podcast. I am going to be... Oh, man, I'm just drawing blanks tonight. I'm having a good night of podcasting. I'm going to be talking to tomorrow night at 8 p.m., ladies and gentlemen, on the Deathmatch Russell podcast. Stay tuned as I be talking to one called Manders on the Deathmatch Russell podcast. Manders will be on the podcast. I'm looking forward to talking to him and see what he is up to, and much, much more, fans. Till next time on the Deathmatch Russell podcast. Talk wrestling, as always. Good night, everybody.
You can find more Deathmatch Russell podcast on the following. Just hit the like button and share. You can hear the audio portion of Deathmatch Russell podcast on Stitcher Radio and on iTunes. Social media, Deathmatch Russell podcast on Facebook, Twitter at DavidNJ32, Instagram, DavidNJ36, YouTube, David C. Russell, and DeathmatchRussellPodcast.com. Podcast City Network, your top source for independent podcasting. Be creative, be yourself. PodcastCity.net. Facebook, Podcast City Network. Twitter at Podcast City Net. Deathmatch Russell Podcast merchandise available. PodcastCity.net/shop. Joners Wrestling Podcast Network. Head over to WrestlingWithJoners.com. Follow them on Facebook. Joners Wrestling Podcast Network. Twitter at with Joners _pod. I want to mention Collar and Elbow. collarandelbowbrand.com. Use the promo code Deathmatch Russell Podcast and save 10% off when you make a purchase. Deathmatch Russell Podcast.